There we go. Whoa. Hey, hey. Friendly microphone, very loud. What's going on, guys? It is Shoky Sunday, and I need to put this away real quick. Sorry, we were taking care of some things that we needed to do since we moved, and debit card was still setting out. So, is what it is. Let's see here. Do we have... Bring up the chat so I can see, just in case. It should be fine. Either way, so tonight we're going to be talking about the final, probably, season of the War for Cybertron Trilogy Kingdom. So if you are not caught up on the series, spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking a lot about it. At least the final section, and then my thoughts on the whole series as it goes, and also how it relates to the toys so far. Of course, guys, hit that like button if you are here, and if you're going to be showing up, make sure you hit the chat, say hi, and all those other things. Also, because it is a live stream, and I don't remember if I took care of this last week. I might have whenever I was streaming the hard way. We have the new Funicorn, the Bad to the Bone edition. In my opinion, not quite as good as the original. It's got some mold issues. The flappy felt bottom part there, I gotta glue that back on. I think I threw away the can of spray adhesive, so I'm gonna have to do it the hard way. I keep looking over at myself, basically, when basically all I need to do is look at the chat. So realistically, I didn't even have to pop it out. So if you guys are here, by all means, do the thing. Hold on, I don't need to have this playing realistically. Also trying to stream at highest quality possible, so let me know if it's going all the way up to 1080p. It's my first time trying to stream at 1080. I don't know if it's working, so you guys need to let me know. Okay. And there we go. I'm live, says 2 people is watching. Also, I'm just making sure that the chat works, because every now and then when I click on the thing, the original chat window fails and I don't see it, and then you guys are talking at me and I don't actually get to see the thing. But it is what it is. Though, lucky for you guys, unlike my Friday night stream over on the It Doesn't Have to Make Sense channel, I did find my lights, so I'm very well lit here. Also, this is the new Shoky Cave. If you're not following the vlogs, you wouldn't know that I've moved. And I'm still getting it set up. As you can see, I've got statues set up. Gotta figure this out. Here, got the Batman shelf back up. So I'm gonna rotate that way. You can see everything that's set up over here. Still old school styly, and that's pretty much it for stuff that's organized and set up. So gonna have to be taking care of that as we go. The detolfs are gonna be going behind me right here, and we're gonna cover that window. So that'll be a thing. And have 0 Gunpla set up. Obviously not building anything, as, well, don't have anything to build at the moment. Here's what I'm trying to do. This thing. Votaku, what's going on? Yeah, it is pretty cool. And like I said, you need to watch the vlogs if you are not. Sorry, I keep looking over at myself. I need to just move this back over here. I'm not doing the things the hard way. Just gonna move this over here. I'll just deal with the chat delay, but that way at least I'm looking this way. I'm still figuring it out as it goes. Also, my camera, which used to be on a boom arm, is now on a mini tripod that I would normally do my out-the-box reactions on. What's weird is that I see the chat there, but I don't see it here on my phone. But either way, so still doing a lot of work. I've still got many tubs worth of stuff out there. My review set is not remotely set up. That's actually my review table right here. That's not where it's going to live. It's just literally being a table right now, because I've still got boxes and boxes of Transformers to set up, all the action figures over here, the Power Rangers stuff. I got to figure out where all the Star Trek stuff I've been getting is going to go. Make sure I'm liking my own thing. There we go. Now I can see the chat on my phone. But yeah, pretty much just finding everything, getting things set up. The Halo Tolf is set up. I know I posted a picture of that. I don't know where the remote is. I would turn it on. I found one of my Master Chiefs. I got to figure out where the other one is. I did find my extra controllers, so filling out the Halo 3 section is happening. It's just not quite there. So, like I said, follow the vlogs if you want to see what's going on. I'm trying to document to the best of my ability, but without tripods or anything available, didn't get a chance to do any time lapses for setting stuff up, and it took days. I mean, several days of moving stuff around, measuring, just to get the room set up the way it is. And it's frankly, other than buying one other piece of furniture that'll go right here to replace the Billy that's there, um, it's gonna kind of be stuck this way. Won't have a whole lot of room for growth. So what I'll probably be doing is changing collections versus gaining more and more and more endlessly. So, like, my Gunpla realistically will be in the Detolfs for the most part, but I think somewhere down the line, those are gonna just stop being on display, except for maybe my customs, and then if I've got to display like other statues or 1/6 scale figures, something like that. It's just a natural evolution of collecting. Space is a huge determining factor. This is a smaller room. Um, it's probably 3 or 4 feet shorter than my old space. So I don't have as much room to do everything. Also, I'm still don't know which way this desk is going to be oriented, because I may have, instead of having the Detolfs behind me, I may have the Billies behind me, whether it'll be the Transformers or other. It just depends on which plug is easiest to get to and organize. I think for ease of use, now that I'm just talking out loud, waiting for people to show up, because there's only a few people. Hi, people. Make sure you say hi in the chat. I'm trying to get set up for my power, my internet connection, and all that. Internet is right over here in the base of the Besta, where the lights are all kind of organized. So I need access to the internet via cord, because my Wi-Fi doesn't seem to want to stay stable anymore. That's the other thing. So we have much faster internet. My Wi-Fi on my computer just is crapping out for whatever reason. I don't know if it's just not up to date or just can't stay stable with such a high-speed connection. So for the first time in forever, I'm directly wired, but that should also mean I drop almost no frames or anything like that. So should be fun. But like I said, it's been hard between work and just life trying to get things set up in here. We worked on the Detolfs last weekend, altering them to run the wires from underneath instead of from on top, which is not easy if your drill bit is getting dull. And those things are way tougher than I ever gave them credit for. The top and bottom of a Detolf is very, very, very dense, like MDF, more or less, from IKEA. So that's that. And I will have to get another Besta down the line, which the wifey's not happy about, but it's going to allow me to put bigger stuff out on display. I've got more statues on pre-order. I've got, of course, more Transformers on pre-order. I do want to do dioramas in the future, especially for my Transformer stuff. So that way they'll have display dioramas. I'm looking forward to that. I'm probably going to be selling off a lot of stuff. So if you guys are remotely interested, I may put up a for sale post on the SHOKY Facebook page. So make sure you're following me over there. So I'm just waiting for more people to realize that we've gone live. I see 4 people in chat. Fotaku's the only one actually saying anything. I'm going to take a sip of my beer. Also, guys, this room is significantly more noisy than the old one. So I don't know if you're going to hear any road noise. I turned on some kind of background noise cancellation last night or on Friday night, and it seemed to work really, really well. Even when I watched the playback, I don't think I could hear even the very loud cars going by. So that's pretty cool. Something I never knew, that OBS actually had a really, really good background noise cancellation without everything sounding bad. So it is what it is. But before we get too far into me going into my own discussion, if you guys have watched the War for Cybertron series, what were your thoughts so far? Like, just kind of an overall, like across the whole series, not really just Kingdom. Because I do want to wrap up those thoughts at the end for myself. But I want to know what you guys thought, because I want this to be a conversation, not just me rambling endlessly. I do that enough as it is. I knew you were going to like it, JJ. Let me lower that down a little bit. Get that plunging V. You got to see the hair. Okay, this second button came undone. Normally I go 2 buttons. Also, we did a lot of laundry today. It's nice having actual laundry in your apartment. Like, if you've ever had to live somewhere where you didn't have a washing machine, at least in your home, it sucks. It sucks a lot. Kingdom was your favorite of the 3. Okay. Okay, so you're going to be real mad at me by the end of the night. And if you actually participated in my poll that I posted, can I see? I know I can see the results somewhere. Hold on. I thought I could get there. Okay, hold on. There's comments. No. Okay, so I'll have to get there on YouTube proper. I guess I can. Hold on. Hold on. I could do the thing over here. I forgot. I'm actually more limited by what my computer can manage versus how slow or fast the internet is now, which is actually pretty cool. Alright, so let me pull this up. Yes, even though I have a good connection, my computer's like, why are you doing 3 things at once? Okay. Let's see here. Also trying to stream at 1080p. Something new. Haven't tried that before. Which... I'm trying to figure out if I should be in my main channel. YouTube has been doing some wonky things again lately. Okay. I'm glad you have that opinion, JJ. I'm happy for you. Okay. I gotta scroll down. Okay, go to community tab. Also, it seems like some of you guys have been liking the out-the-box stuff on the weekends. X says Optimus Prime is still by far the worst IMO. Okay. I can appreciate that. Like I said, we will talk about it. Okay, so when I put up the poll 3 days ago, I said, so War for Cybertron Kingdom happened. Thoughts? So we had why? They did all right. It was great. How did they screw up the cast for the Beast Wars characters? And Motu Revelations was better. Now, truth be told, I voted 3 different ways between my 3 different channels just to get the ball rolling. But by far and away, with 50% of the votes, normally it'll tell me 76 people voted. So minus 3 of myself. So 73 people voted. 50% of it was why? Followed up by 21% of how did they screw up the voice cast for the Beast Wars characters. Then they did all right. And then it was great, which I'm sure JJ was in that category. And then Motu Revelations was better, which I believe I clicked on. I don't know. Will it tell me how many people voted for things? Because that would be cool. I don't think I can break it down 100%, but either way, that was my standing there. I warmed up to the Optimus voice through this series. X, did you mean that Optimus Prime's voice was the worst, or his characterization? Because that's the thing I did want to know. and this is not going to be a review so much as a discussion. I'm going to talk about the different things that I like, the different things that I didn't like, and I'm going to go Kingdom, and then I'll go for the entire series. But for right now, I'm just asking you guys what you thought. A little both, but mostly the voice, okay? I probably should have taken a little bit of notes, but it's still fresh in my mind, realistically. I just watched it Friday. Okay. I'm going to bring up the chat up here so I don't have to keep staring down at it. There we go. I guess I could also bring up this so I can see myself and the chat. There we go. Okay. So, first off, if you guys have been watching my channel for a few months now, you know I've definitely been buying all three series. I've gotten Siege, Earthrise, and Kingdom figures. But in the Kingdom line, I've gotten very few Autobots or Decepticons, if any. I think I've gotten almost exclusively Beast Wars characters. They're in a box over there, so I haven't been able to unbox them yet. Actually, I'm sorry, they're in a box down there. And frankly, like, for the most part, I've enjoyed the Beast Wars figures. A couple are pretty lackluster, or the design is kind of dumb. But as a whole, when they're in robot mode all together, I really enjoy having all the character representations. And I think in that discussion, I'm doing pretty good. I still need to get Tigatron and Scorponok, since we don't actually have any other characters. Which I thought was interesting, that when it came to the Beast Wars characters, they're showing off Waspinator, but he's not in the series, which I find strange. Whereas I think virtually everyone else... No, I can't say that, because the other Autobots from Earthrise were not there. I don't... Did we ever get a Hoist? Not a Hoist. Was it a Hoist? Yeah. I don't think we ever got Trailblazer, Hoist, Inferno, any of those characters. Now, I watched a thing that did talk about the fact that they didn't necessarily go the direction they wanted to go with it. They had different plans, and then things sort of got fumbled, and then, you know, Earthrise had nothing to do with Earth Rising, so Optimus didn't get to rise. But apparently everyone failed at that. But when it came to figures, like, they just introduced way more characters than they ever gave us in the show. And that kind of annoyed me to a degree now, but I guess you gotta fill out the people, right? So, but as it goes, I'm probably not gonna buy any more Autobots or anything like that. Oh, you know what I remembered? Okay, so when I was watching a thing about this, what they changed from the final series is that it was supposed to be them running into the cast of the 86 movie, and then them going through this instead. That's how we ended up with the Studio 86 line, and why they're so close and so similar to the Earthrise or Kingdom line, and why you've got movie characters in Siege, why you got movie characters other than RC popping up in other things. We get Rodimus. Why are we getting a Rodimus Prime? There was nothing of that in this series. Unicron, this is supposed to be a new Unicron trilogy, so to speak, only came into play barely throughout this. So Earthrise does... I don't even consider it that, because they give you all of the Earth vehicles and Earth modes, and then that doesn't happen. So at some point they changed the story to where they should have gotten to Earth and proceeded through the G1 era, kind of moving into the movie era, moving into the Beast Wars era, but with the time travel and all that crap kind of still happening. Which, to me, the whole series is an interesting retelling. But let's talk about Kingdom, at least for right now, and then I'll go over that. So My initial thoughts on this series: one, it's taking place on prehistoric Earth, just like it did in Beast Wars. We knew that was going to happen. We saw them crash at the end of the previous series. Um, and like the Ark isn't technically buried; it just sort of crashed up against a volcano. You get the Nemesis, which is more or less just crashed in a forest, more or less. Even though I think in G1 it technically crashed in the ocean, so we changed that different a little bit there. The Beast Wars characters are already on Earth, which already blew my mind. It's like they were here before they crashed. Okay. And I was fine with the fact that, they crashed, everybody gets up. Part of what annoyed me about this is the weird lack of continuity going back to G1 versus the movie versus Beast Wars on whether or not the Matrix of Leadership is directly connected to Prime and his spark, or it's a separate thing that he makes use of as his upgrade to Prime versus being Orion Pax. Oh, sorry, I just realized, at least on my end, that's funny. You guys can't see this, but the the chat is overlaying over something else, but it's not actually affecting it. But either way, sorry. Um, Having them land and be awake, fine. The fact that Optimus lost the Matrix of Leadership, has a giant gaping wound in his side, and then is still functioning, and then going immediately into a fight with the Maximals, which I thought was insane. Like, so we get Cheetor real quick on camera, and then you get Rat Trap poking around like in the wires, and then I think Rhinox comes in, and then everybody just sort of piles in. Frankly, Optimus Primal, if he was really gonna be a dick about it, could have just killed Optimus Prime right then and there, given the shape he was in. Already been through a hell of a bunch of fights, going through the dead universe, Megatron kind of ripping out the uh, Matrix of Leadership. He should basically be dead. He kind of should have been dead in the last series. I think that's one of my biggest problems with this is we saw dozens of Autobots and Decepticons die, mostly clones, but occasionally a main character, Ultra Magnus, out of the first run. But it's like the longer the series went, they had less and less balls when it came to killing mainline Autobots or Decepticons. Even within Kingdom, they didn't do it. Because there's somebody who took a sword to their chest, like all the way through, and they didn't die. Whereas another person got the crap beat at him and an arm ripped off, and he died. And I think that if they had stuck with a G1 based story with some intervening by the movie bots, because obviously we got Galvatron in the dead universe, which at least was explained in this one. His interfering, trying to give Megatron a one-up so that he doesn't get enslaved to Unicron, is an interesting concept, which is why he needed to get the Matrix of Leadership. They needed to win the war, because it wasn't much of a war anymore once they left Cybertron. And then the fact that now we're on a completely alternate timeline, to the fact that the Maximals and the Predacons grew up, so to speak, on a Cybertron that was dead. Okay. And they were just out trying to either find something or were running from their future problems, which are Galvatron and Nemesis Prime. And I do like that they made Nemesis Prime the Unicronified Optimus. Like Optimus may have died and then became enslaved as Nemesis Prime, which is an interesting idea instead of him being a separate cloned entity. And given that's why the Maximals attack him, or at least Optimus Primal attacks Prime, was interesting because he kept calling him Nemesis. It's like, dude, he's not even black. Like, red, black, red, black. It's pretty easy to tell the difference, unless he's colorblind as a monkey. I don't know. When it came to the Beast Wars models, they were okay. Like, I think it seemed like there was a change in Optimus Primal's. If you guys were watching it, did you see a change in Optimus Primal's gorilla face from like episode 1 throughout the rest of it? Because it seemed to get a little bit weird over time. I don't know if that was just me or not. The I'm just gonna say it. Almost all of the Beast Wars voices were just wrong, in my opinion. Optimus Primal's was wrong. Megatron's was horrendous. I don't know what they were thinking. He sounds like a little kitty version of that Megatron. Dinobot, while okay, did not fit the character. They didn't even. And you know what? Speaking of character, they didn't have any. There was no, in my opinion, once again, this is all about my opinion. To me, the Beast Wars characters, and actually most of the cast, don't have any character to them. Like, the Beast Wars characters were almost all very, very individualized. There wasn't like, oh, he just looks like another clone bot. He's not another army chunk. They all had very different voices for the most part. Or they had some kind of characterization. There was something to them, and because all you can do is see them on screen, whether they're emoting. But if they're not emoting when they talk, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm gonna hold Scott McNeil as the only character that can play Dinobot, or actor that can play Dinobot properly. But this guy didn't even do an imitation of that version of Dinobot at all. Didn't even get like the growling snarl that's part of his speech. We didn't get anything like that. It just sounded like some dude. Rhinox was okay, but I feel like they'd put more sauce on the accent in the later episodes. Rhinox was kind of an ass at first. Actually, all of the characters were a lot more assy. Optimus Primal was a jerk. Optimus Prime is. I think I argued once before that this version of Optimus Prime is so war weary that he doesn't really try or think or even necessarily lead. He makes poor decisions that usually are to his detriment and to the detriment of his crew, which is all modern interpretations of Optimus, with I think exception of the Prime version. And I think that's weird that they characterize somebody who was this great leader um, in almost all other formats. He was this great leader. Even if he was reluctant at all, he could make a decision. He was smart. In fact, that's one of the wisdom was one of the things that the Matrix is supposed to impart. This Optimus, not smart, makes stupid decisions. Generally gets himself and other people killed. How they have any energon to do anything, I have no idea, because that was part of the problem. Behind the curve again, of course. Sorry, Beast Wars is weird to me, other than some IDW stuff. They're always brought back as cameos to please the 90s kids. Yeah. Yeah. That bothered me. How they suddenly had an army of Scorponok's. But the interesting idea that, as they talk about it, that the Maximals, there's only a handful, which there always were. Predacons only have a couple of mainstream characters, Black Arachnia, Megatron, Dinobot, and then I guess Scorponok. Oh yeah, I need to get Scorponok too. But then they never talk about the fact that there's a Scorponok army, but they needed rank. They needed someone to fill out for the final battle, so suddenly a buttload of Scorponoks. Why wouldn't you just have, like, why send Dinobot to watch over Air Razor when she gets captured? Which, that was fine. She gets captured, it's fine. I liked the Air Razor versus Laserbeak thing. It didn't go on very long, but it happened. I like that you have Black Arachnia trying to betray one Megatron, teaming up with Starscream, who's betraying the other Megatron, and then Dinobot, who's just somewhere in the middle. The Voyager disc for a second was confused with Beast Megatron meant by having OG's Megatron strategies on it because the actual disc is Beto and multilingual. Yeah, because in that continuity, the Great War still happened, I guess. See, that's okay. Hold on. Let's just talk about that. The Golden Disc didn't make sense in this continuity because we don't know. The Great War never ended the way it did before because Cybertron basically was dead. Some events happened like normal, but Unicron is a major threat, and Galvatron and Nemesis Prime are basically conquering any and all transforming abilities, even however far in the future that we get Maximals and Predacons. No clue how that happened. Don't know how they could have evolved on Cybertron when it was supposedly completely dead due to a lack of an Allspark. Um, they just kind of jumped through hoops to make it happen, but didn't think about how any of that would matter. So, in the original Beast Wars, it made sense that the Golden Disc, Megatron encoded messages to himself on how to alter the future to do the thing. But in Beast Wars, little Megatron, as it were, T Rex Megatron, just went by that information hoping that any of his descendants would be able to make it happen. Um, Anyone in the future, Decepticon or other, would be able to make it happen. Where in this one, he's like, I've got the golden disc. We're on Earth. Oh, wait, here's you. Take this, give yourself all the information. I realize a similar time travel idea is compared to the one in Avengers Endgame. I don't think it's that similar because it wasn't a time heist. But I mean, Beast Wars was, but it just took them. They didn't have that planned initially. They just made that how it went. They barely explain it. Anybody? Did nobody question that there suddenly were a whole bunch of Scorponauts? No, nobody in series did, except for the fact that they had said they had lost like a buttload of people. They had like 200 some odd Transformers, which checks if you go with the idea that they had the protoforms on board. And once again, launch them. Predacons take a bunch of them, but why would they make a buttload of Scorponauts? But the whole thing is that with this is that if you do change the past, the future does change. So we know that happens in this continuity because if that were true, then nothing they did would have changed. Or I guess that would only work, JJ, if they say the original timeline happened as it did, and then the golden disc got sent into an alternate timeline, and then that's how they fought. That it doesn't work. It doesn't. You can't have the original continuity of the Great War with it ending the way they did, Cybertron evolving the way they did, and then have them grow up hating the Autobots. Optimus Prime is the biggest failure. He's the one who doomed Cybertron, all that kind of stuff. I'm actually getting very tired of that storyline that Optimus Prime is the worst thing to happen to Cybertron because they have been pushing that narrative since at least the Bayverse movies. Like, and I think it just keeps happening. They're like, Optimus Prime is terrible. He's not a good leader. He makes every decision possible to destroy Cybertron, and Megatron is somehow the good guy. You can make that into a good story somehow, but this didn't do that. There was no redeeming characteristics here. Yeah, the fact that Galvatron is jumping in and out of timelines makes no sense in and of itself, other than they're going through the dead universe and using transwarp somehow to interact with the past, even on that timeline. But it's interesting to know that even on that alternate timeline, Galvatron still happens. Um, and what's weird is that this was always a different continuity from original G1. Um, So the fact that anything that happened within regular G1 on a timeline is strange to me. Yeah, they really should have pulled in a Whovian to help write their script, realistically. Well, my problem with Galvatron existing in that timeline is that you're talking about hundreds of years from the original Beast Wars timeline that are different. Sorry, hold on. I'm adjusting my microphone. It's just sort of here. Hi, Eric. Um, but the idea that I think they ran into continuity problems with their own story when they changed from having the 86 cast be the ones that go through a lot of this stuff, or the G1 cast runs into the 86 cast, runs into the Beast Wars cast. I think that's what went wrong. That's where they were wanting to bring in Galvatron and have him do things, but they didn't have the opposite end of that, which I think is what hurt things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And IDW has done a ton of different stories like that. Whether or not, they've done the political side of it. Megatron starting an uprising, the Autobots fighting for what was, the Decepticons fighting for their low class status or whatever. And then they've done it where, you know, Starscream becomes president of Cybertron. Or, what is it? All Hail Megatron was one comic, things like that. But that's the problem, JJ. They can't borrow from a pre-existing timeline and expect this result to make sense. Because how do you get to the evolution of Predacons and Maximals on a Cybertron that is supposedly dead? And they said that they're from Cybertron, basically. If Cybertron is dead, as we see it to be, because the Allspark is gone, then how did we ever get to the point that any Transformers ever were made again? It's like they should have gone extinct, in theory. And in this universe, as it sets, should have died out. But the fact that they bring in things from the original G1 to make things happen here, we bring in all these similarities of, look, I'm Optimus Primal, you're Optimus Prime, I'm from the future. What's up, baby? Trying to pay that change of address in my card won't go through. Uh huh. I was charged $86 for that. How? I got an email from BBAA for fraud protection, and they sent me an email when I saw where you went to Walgreens earlier, and then it said on there $86, and it told me it didn't charge anything. So now I'm on hold. How did it charge $86? And they said it wouldn't go through. That's why I said, oh, mine didn't go through. I need to check mine then. But I used a different website first. I used the wrong one. You weren't using the right website. That's a bet. You might have to get a new debit card now. Someone screwed up. Yeah, exactly. Multiple. Now, one thing is if when they're playing with multiple, not timelines, but like dimensions, that makes sense because in the comics at some point, Galvatron wasn't an evolved version of Megatron. He was a separate being entirely and did exist there. And I think that's where they should have gone. Hold on. You guys are talking faster. Warf Cybertron Trilogy series is not showing the same universe as OG G1 Beast Wars series. G1 Beast. Okay, so sorry, the chat wasn't going at the right. Messages were coming in out of order. Yeah, yeah. I just. You can't have, at least in my opinion, if you're gonna take characters from a beloved series, do them justice. And I think while they tried to capitalize on the Beast Wars fame, they failed hard on the voices for almost everyone. I'll say Airraiser, Rhinox, and Black Arachnia and Rat Trap were probably the ones that mattered, which I guess leaves only the other like handful that I thought were horrendous. Especially Megatron. I thought Megatron was ridiculous. Also, making this Megatron a religious zealot to OG Megatron instead of his own badass self, I hated. If the original Beast Wars Megatron and real G1 Megatron got in the same room, they would not agree on anything. OG Megatron would definitely kill Beast Wars Megatron for trying to, well, even just for taking his name, which this one tried to do. I will say that this version of Megatron, proper G1 Megatron, I should say, is one of the better characters of the whole series. And even in this one, where he's basically being driven mad by the Matrix of Leadership, which was interesting. The idea that he had it and was trying to use it to the best of his ability, but it was rejecting him, therefore giving him visions, driving him mad. That made sense. It was almost like the One Ring. The characters don't know how time streams work. Yeah, but I mean, if that was true, and see, here's the thing: whoever was it, JJ, who said that changing the past doesn't affect your future, then Galvatron wouldn't have been doing what he was doing. Galvatron was actively trying to alter the timeline so that he didn't end up like he was, which of course grandfather paradox um, comes into play. So they are they altering the timelines or are they not? Which we know for a fact with Beast Wars timeline rules, which is what they were going for here, should have altered the future. Now, as it goes, the things that bothered me the most, I'll talk about the negative stuff first and then I'll go over the positives. The voices. The Optimus basically not doing anything of regular or Prime, not Primal, I'll just say Prime basically just being there and not really doing much except for the one time he came in to save the Maximals on that quick journey. He was basically just chasing the goal, the MacGuffin, either MacGuffin, there were two. It's like Starscream kind of did the most with Black Arachnia. They're actually actively trying to betray Megatron and get to the Allspark first. And then once he gets the visions from the disc, then he really is actively trying to stop Megatron from doing what he's doing. Megatron has just become an absolute zealot. And then you have his follower, who is also an absolute zealot. And good God, when he transformed into T-Rex mode and then started yelling in that terrible voice, it was bad. It was very bad, guys. I'm sorry. Doing Dinobot's death. No, it felt like a cheap ripoff. I honestly didn't feel anything because this Dinobot didn't matter to me. They tried to give you his struggle with being a good guy and not wanting to do bad things. Fine, they did what they could, but instead of having 2.5 seasons, not 2.5, but you know what I mean. At least a season and a half of characterization and will he, won't he, you get a handful of episodes and then he dies in essentially the same manner. And sure, he's still got his honor, but does that matter in this series? We don't know anything about him. They're relying entirely on you as someone who's seen Beast Wars and loves Dinobot to care about this Dinobot the same way. And I personally didn't. I did not care. I was like, oh, look, they're going to kill him the same way he died before. He's going to fight Megatron and other Megatron. Oh, there he goes. He got the disc. I bet he's going to blow it up with his eyes. He blows it up with his eyes. And then he just dies from his wounds. Okay. Now, the idea that he had the Matrix... I'm sorry, he blew up the disc and got the Matrix back. So, he did good. I'm not going to say he didn't. I'm just saying the death was cheapened by repeating the way he died before in a much lesser manner. It only matters because you cared about the first time he died. And this is technically the third time he's died. If you count Dinobot 2. Yeah. I feel like they were just going to do it. Oh, yeah. Trying to redo Beast Wars with this cast would be horrendous. But it gets even wonkier because now this Beast Wars cast is on Cybertron in the past. So it doesn't even matter. We're getting all new continuity anyways. Um, Mimicry has King of Megatron prior see him become undone by his obsession with his rival of the namesake. Yes, that would make sense. Where he doesn't want to live in the shadow of original Megatron because he took his namesake for that reason. Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, Air Razor, she was just Air Razor. They alluded to her and Tigatron being in a relationship just by his reaction to her being captured, but there was never a connection established. Why would you care? If you saw this series without seeing Beast Wars, why would you care about any of these characters? Let's just be honest here. You wouldn't. If you saw Beast Wars but never saw G1, why would you care about any of the Autobots? Not only would you not have any knowledge of what's going on, why would you care that anything is happening to the Autobots? When Beast Wars Megatron kills original Optimus Prime in stasis and the timeline shatters and then only his being restored to health fixes that, that mattered. Nothing that was going on in this series mattered ultimately. Optimus just keeps yelling about the Allspark. He finally gets the Matrix of Leadership back from Dinobot, only to give it up to Megatron an episode later, just so Megatron could be sent to Somewheresville, and then he just gets the Matrix back along with the Allspark. That was stupid. The having Dinobot's ghost help, that was okay. It didn't make sense because we had never established that sparks mattered or that you could even do that. It was fine when he was inhabiting someone's body, like when he went into Optimus Primal and then phased through the wall, which I'm still calling bullshit on, but at least it made sense. Like, Dinobot then becomes the plot device. It's like, you've got your two MacGuffins that are finally meeting in one room. One that won't let him... Why wouldn't it let him in? It's like, is the only reason that the Allspark didn't let Optimus in... Hold on, I have to go back, because I remember them basically saying, like, the AI around the Allspark, whether that was a defense device or the Allspark itself, was corrupted by the infinite amount of data from the dead universe, which screwed it all up. And then once he cleared it with the easy to get, what is it called? The clean slate protocol. He gets a clean slate protocol from Rhinox, fixes it, and then, oh, here, the door opened up, and then inside is a whole new temple, which came from somewhere. I think this entire series suffered from not getting enough episodes to make a story that made sense or that mattered. They literally just go place to place, repeating the same lines of dialogue in a new spot, and then they get just either closer or farther away from their MacGuffin, depending on what's happening. One of Dinobot cards changes his name to Dynamus. There's potential candidate for a prime. See, that made sense. If they were trying to imply that he would be something new. Now, one thing, because I thought they were going to go the Prime Wars route and give Optimus Primal the Matrix of Leadership, and then he was going to evolve for the final battle. I would have been okay with that too, even though it would have just been copying Prime Wars. The one established storyline that went through at least 5 of the episodes, as JJ brought up, was the Arc / Teletron 1 refusing to do anything they said for reasons. And then once they got the Allspark, which is now powered by all of the dead Predacons and Maximals, as you do, it gets the power boost that it needs to also what? Hold on. Hey, babe. Yeah.
Good news is I don't need a new car.
Okay.
What happened was that website triggered something, so that's why it wouldn't go through.
Okay.
That's why it showed on the email they sent me, it showed the price, but when I looked at my app, it didn't show as a pending transaction.
Okay.
On my actual account shows what happened was that when you saw that message, it automatically turned off your card.
Yeah.
And
so you basically.
I got a call early, I'm like, who the fuck is calling me?
Yeah.
Then I saw an email from BBAA, so I read it, and that's when I said, let me call and see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so they went ahead and unblocked it, but she just had to prove that was me that accidentally did that. It's not going to charge me.
Yeah.
It's just
because I didn't have that.
Internal.
I need to
turn off your card right away.
So I need to look at mine, but mine was on the main USPS website.
I did the same when I did mine. Yeah. I had gone to whenever you paid for it. I was on the correct website.
Okay.
I didn't use that same
one. Okay. So I'm just making sure I didn't get there.
I mean, you can check to make sure.
I would have got a notification from Chase immediately. Yeah, if there was a fraud alert, I would have got an app notification like you did.
Yeah.
But mine went. It just didn't want to use my.
She said it looked like it was suspicious, so the card automatically gets shut off until I called.
Okay, that's good though.
So I said yes, it was me, but accidental charge.
Yeah. Okay, well I'm glad that's settled. That would have sucked.
I don't know. I'm gonna lay down. I'm watching one show. I'll probably lay down since I'm not feeling well.
Okay. Y'all wish Miss Shoki good healings. She has not been feeling good this weekend. Love you. Okay. So, the arc transforming, we knew it had to happen. If it didn't happen, a lot of people are going to be pissed. But they already did it in the preview, so we knew it was going to happen. Did anyone else get the vibes that Unicron was going to be approaching and that he would have to Arcatron 1 was going to fight Unicron somehow? Because they kept talking about he's coming, all this stuff like that. And it seemed like Unicron was coming to Earth because that's where everything was going wrong all of a sudden. Was I the only one who got that vibe? Like somehow the Ark was going to fight Unicron? And then all he actually does is punch the Nemesis? That's it? Transforms once, does a couple things, and then punches the Nemesis out of the sky? Which, don't get me wrong, it's cool that he could punch the Nemesis, but... And I got that they were going for end of Beast Wars, Nemesis over the Ark, trying to kill Autobots and Maximals together. Fine. Of course, it's a full-powered Nemesis as well. He's a Titan. Yeah, I mean, like, and this is the only Titan we got, or I should say, only, because we got Omega Supreme, but for like one, Omega Supreme did more than anything else. And the Ark would be, I gotta wonder if the Ark would technically be the same size as Omega or smaller, because it's a spaceship, he's a spaceship / city. And I'm not talking about the toys, obviously they're going to be very similar height. And I'm getting the Ark whenever it comes into Hasbro Pulse. But I'm not going to have him in bot mode. I'm going to have him in Arc mode, and I'm going to use it to build the diorama. How can he move so fast? Even Omega Supreme was slow. Omega was slow-ish. As they managed to convince all the Predacons to go against the Decepticons and still manage to haul halfway across Cybertron in a snowstorm just in time. Yeah, I mean, everything is basically just moved from place to place. You know, a bunch of the... Well, actually, there aren't even that many Predacons left, so you say half. I mean, Megatron stayed with Megatron. Black Arachnia left. Dinobot was dead. that's it. I mean, we only had three. We only had four, and most of the other ones changed sides. So I guess technically half. You're right. Um, the one idea. I'll go back to the Dinobot death. We skipped over it, but Dinobot dying, saying, "I wish I basically had changed your side. Would you have let me join you if I had come to you?" And he said, "Yeah, of course." But we have gotten zero positive anything out of this Optimus Primal. He's a leader, but he's also an asshole. He's not the kind, gentle leader of this roving band of Maximals. He's an asshole. He's a big asshole. Different timeline. It is what it is, but still. The Ark was essentially Primus in robot form. Actually, isn't he supposed to be was it the first Autobot? Or was it the last Autobot? What was it called? That's what he was modeled after. But the fact that he didn't transform again on Cybertron, and they might have like they were using the uh gates or the space bridges as a network, right? So they're going like Stargate. They pop out of one, and then they got to go through it again to go to another one, and then they go through one. They end up in a dead universe for 5 seconds, and then they drop out. And then while they were there for 5 seconds, they ended up uh, grabbing Galvatron and Nemesis somehow. He's like, "We were waiting for you." How? I will say that Galvatron was fine. Nemesis was dumb, but at least he did something, more or less. He did a really high jump and then was shooting down at Optimus, but clearly didn't seem to understand that Bumblebee was the chosen one. I think we all forgot Bumblebee was the chosen one. Um, yeah, the Nemesis should have transformed too. The last Autobot, that was it. Okay, so had they gone with any storyline that said that the Ark was the last Autobot, that would have been cool. If they had roped that in there, not the Nemesis Teletran decided that it needed to transform to get to the next thing because once it downloaded all that data, it knew what was going to happen and it was finding its optimal form to do that. How did it even have the. Never mind. No point in asking questions. I like that it did the thing. I wish it did more with it. It, it that's all I want. Is that too much to ask? Okay. So, oh, and then the ending. Okay, here is your Allspark. It slightly powers up the Tower of Allspark. We learn everybody's dead on Cybertron, which was depressing as hell. That means everything they left for didn't matter because everyone was dead. Alita and Optimus kind of having a final moment was okay because they had had so many arguments and stuff like that. He admitted he was wrong, was sorry she died. Having all the sparks come out to help defend things, or oh, they did the no, they did the no thing, and then somehow sent uh, Nemesis and Galvatron to the future. Okay, why didn't you do that earlier? It's like that would have been really handy 15 seconds ago. I think that if they had had the balls to pass the Matrix of Leadership on and then have this story progress, like say give it to Bumblebee and then Bumblebee becomes something new, or Optimus Primal takes over for Optimus Prime because Prime died and then they got the explanation. So Primal takes over with Prime or in the place of Prime, and now we get a mix mash and why it matters that they're mix and matched. Original Megatron now turns on Galvatron and T-Rex Megatron. That was fine. His turn, I knew that was basically going to happen because they were copying a lot of what Prime did at the end with Beast Hunters or whatever it was called, um, or whatever that movie that ended it was called. Like, okay, we gotta call a truce. We gotta reignite the Well of Allspark. And if I think it had been one thing where the sparks, Yeah, they did cover what sparks were because they were extracting sparks to power things up because they were running out of energon. So, are they saying that the Allspark, prior to Prime sending it away, was just a power source, or was it the Matrix? What was it? Because they kind of, it's either the Matrix where everybody goes when they die, or it's merely powered by sparks, or sparks go into it and come out of it. They didn't do enough with it to explain that, and didn't like that. The fact they called a truce was good. Cybertron is alive, I guess. Day came about. The sky cleared. The snow went away. So that was good. Good guys are on this side. Bad guys are going over there to go recoup with the 6 people they got left. Are more Transformers going to come back? That's my big question. Now the Allspark is back. Do they come back from there? Magic Metal D20, yeah. Makes you wonder. Yeah, see, that was the thing. There was no sense of time in this series at all. Because if you remember, when the Allspark was acting as Alita, she said they were gone for a long time. Cycles or whatever. Which I think was a stellar cycle is supposed to be. I forgot what their terminology. A cycle I thought was an hour, but then they were like mega cycles were like a year, something like that. Does anybody remember? Nova Prime. If they brought in the Primes at all, it would have made sense that the Primes came out to help, but we didn't really go that route. Seeing Alpha Trion come in was kind of cool. I wish they had done something with him at all, other than him just blindly leading Optimus, but solar cycles in reference to years. Yeah, that makes sense. That's an animated though. Does that matter? Stellar cycles. I forget what they call hours. Either way, yeah, the fact they didn't talk about how much time had passed, we could gather it was a while, but I mean, we knew that Cybertron was dying. We were running out of energon. Nobody was doing anything about that. The Allspark Prime sent away at the end of Siege. So it was already dying. He made it to where it would definitely die more. But we're going after it, so it's fine. I still think they should have done Omega as the arc. Copy animated in that, it would have made more sense. Turn Omega into the arc, and then that's how they follow after it. Would have made more sense. Yes, I'm aware they did that, but I'm saying if all series were kind of up to copy from, at least in the G1 reference, they could have gone there. I don't know. It's like this whole series. Since there's not a lot more to talk about. Oh, we'll say their rendering of prehistoric Earth looked enough like original Beast Wars. I thought it was kind of funny. It's like because they hadn't done anything organic yet at all. It was all metal, rock, dirt, whatever, but no plants or anything like that. So I thought that was pretty funny. They didn't encounter any actual normal wildlife. They only encountered the other robots. Also, for the real fans, so to speak, did it bother you at all that everybody was the same size? So does that mean that Autobots and Decepticons are smaller, or Maximals and Predacons are bigger? Because if the idea is to copy local wildlife to blend in, but you are 5 times as big as it should be, how does that work? Someone explain. Eagles. Yes, it was the Eagles. I don't know. Like it's hard. It is really hard to not shit on this series as it goes. There were some positives. The mild retelling of a G1 story, given a lot more of the political intrigue, how Megatron rose to power, the dire circumstances on Cybertron, all of that I actually really did like. What I didn't need was all. I didn't need Kingdom. I'll tell you that right now. Kingdom, as it came out, didn't need to be. Had they kept on the storyline they sort of were going on, keep it within the G1 boundaries, even with Galvatron coming in to try to jack up the timelines, I would have been okay with it. I think that the only reason they justified the timeline stuff is like we have to have Optimus see the error of his way by seeing the future of it because he wasn't able to, I guess, early on when he made these decisions. But that's where, like, I don't know, the matrix of leadership was supposed to help him. This Optimus was stupid, and I've been saying that. He made bad decisions all along. He was always behind the ball, didn't listen to anybody when he needed to, and didn't make decisions that benefited anyone because he always thought he was right. He had a point, but so did Megatron. You know, that was the thing. Optimus was about no compromise at all, except for his own people. He would, it was always to the detriment of others until the end. Bumblebee being made to be what was it, Alpha Trion, what was it called, Protocol? One that ceased to matter almost immediately, which was dumb. It would have made sense if he had it the whole time, because then he would have been Optimus's conscience, which is what he was supposed to be. And then they just said, nope, he's just going to be the little guy in the corner that does stuff. Yeah, mass shifting. Mass shifting makes sense, but the fact that they weren't changing size from vehicle to robot, they were just bigger. It made sense that it made sense in the Beast Wars continuity that the robots were smaller due to lack of energon, so they made themselves smaller and more energy efficient, so they didn't have to rely on as much energon to survive. That made sense. Yeah, yeah. The fact that the Guardians, the Sentinels, wouldn't do anything, only Omega would. Um, it's just like we're not gonna take sides in this. I'm like, well, maybe you should. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, using the Allspark to reshape, I think we kind of proved that Megatron wasn't really able to do any of that because it wouldn't have let a non-prime do anything with it. I don't think. So I think it just they wanted to do too many things in a very short amount of time and didn't know how to get there, and then changing the plans along the way really hurt them. I think that they didn't need Beast Wars at all. They could have just relied on the 86 movie cast to make this happen. I think that had they gone with the 86 movie cast being the ones that they intercept post Dead Universe, would have made more sense, would have allowed you to get Unicron, Galvatron, and then maybe if you want Nemesis in there too. So say Optimus dies and then he's resurrected as Nemesis, and then you've got to deal with this. So you've got young Optimus meeting young Rod, or Hot Rod, meeting his evil alternate form now that he's sparkless. That would have made way more sense than introducing Beast Wars into it, in my opinion. Because then you could have even got humans involved, because it would have been post Great War. It would have been with the Human Autobot Alliance. Well, not post Great War, but mostly. That's true. Could you imagine if you had a Sentinel fighting, or yeah, a Guardian Sentinel fighting Omega over that concept? That would have been interesting. And then Omega having to turn into the Ark to follow through, and then he just loses the ability to transform. After that, that would have been interesting. Yes, they scanned actual animals and fossils. So they were post dinosaur, pre human. So the living mammals and insects and reptiles were used, but in the case of bigger bots like Megatron and Dinobot, they needed bigger things. So they went with T Rex, Raptor, Pterosaur. I'm just gonna say that. Yeah, so they scanned living and dead things at that point. Of course, there were no other vehicles, but that's how you also end up with, excuse me, Inferno, who's an ant. What's his face, who was a crab. That kind of stuff. So Rampage. Also, like, did we see Depth Charge? No, we never saw Depth Charge actually scan to get his manta ray form. That's just interesting. But we never saw any actual animals on this planet. Oh, Tigatron. I did forgot about this. Tigatron did not have his cool, calm, hippie nature versus this one, which I think they probably could have switched. What was it? Dinobot and Tigatron should have switched voice actors, in my opinion. Yeah, Ant is nearly as big as the T Rex. Yeah, nearly. Also, terrifying giant ant. That's what it is. I mean, I really do hate to say like I'm, sound like I'm shitting on the series as a whole. It wasn't good. I mean, it was kind of down the middle, but I think the longer it went on, it got obvious they didn't know where they were going. I think Siege had a very good storyline setup. I did not like the characterization and the kind of bland arguments happening over and over until the point that Optimus just came across as the ultimate asshole. And I think I'm just tired of Optimus being the ultimate asshole or just some loser who can't make decisions. I'm tired of that, I think. But it's like we have great representations of so much, and they're talking about retelling an extended version of G1 or a slight alternate timeline of G1. And they went for that, and then they just started throwing things to see what would stick. And I think that hurt them. Beast Wars wasn't needed, and if they were gonna do it, they needed to do it better. If they wanted to go that route, what they should have done was given us four. If you want to give us four series, give us Kingdom following the Beast Wars timeline, and then we just wonder why this is happening until we find out about Nemesis and Galvatron without the Autobots and Decepticons being involved. And then we go, okay, so this is a retelling of Beast Wars all of a sudden. See, that's what they should have done. The Siege should have been G1 as it was, like original G1. Earthrise should have been 86 movie. Kingdom should have been Beast Wars, and then a fourth series, call it, I don't know, Unicron Wars, and have all of those come together because now you see what the problem with Optimus sending the Allspark away. The stuff happening in the 86 era. And then when you get to Beast Wars, you're trying to figure out, wait a minute, why are the Maximals so different? And then you realize they're being hunted by Nemesis. And you're, wait a minute, what? And then Galvatron shows up as well. And then you're like, what the hell? And then you see the Ark and Nemesis crash. That would have been a way to tell this story that made sense. Give each section its own story and then tie it together in a fourth series into why this is happening. So you get all the political intrigue and the desperation of the Autobots to leave Cybertron. And then you think it's just a normal G1 retelling until Optimus sends the Allspark through the space bridge and then blows it up and then disappears, and then we think that it's all done and done. Then jump to an 86 movie cast that is still dealing with that, but then you find out that this isn't just the 86 movie because Optimus died and disappeared, and now we're dealing with the ramifications of that. So that Hot Rod never becomes Rodimus Prime. It's called a Hot Rodimus. And stuff like that. And then at the end of that, you have them end up on. See, somehow you got to get the 86 cast there. But then you deal with maybe Unicron. Or you end that series with Unicron taking in Optimus's dead body. And they're like, wait, well, how did Optimus's dead body get here? And then you go to prehistoric Earth with the Beast Wars, and you go through all that, and then you end with Nemesis hunting them, then Galvatron being there. Like, wait, how the hell did this happen? Nemesis and Arc crashing. Roberto Lopez, what's going on? I think that would have been a better way to tie them all together. Still give you the toy lines, still give you a different telling of the stories, and like, wait, these are all this alternate timeline that has now happened, and then they start crisscrossing. Maybe, oh, okay, so you get the maybe that's how you get there. The 86 cast ends up running into the dead universe and then ending up on the Ark. There you go. So you get the remainder of the 86 cast ending up on the Ark in the dead universe, and then they end up crashing with the original Autobots onto prehistoric Earth to get to the Beast Wars. And then you find out that they're trying to play all these temporal games to escape Unicron, and then Unicron becomes, I don't know, the big bad of the series instead of basically Optimus's bad decisions being the bad guy of the series. That I don't know, to be totally honest with you there. Prime Wars was quasi G1 post-war. Yeah, you know what? Prime Wars Megatron, I actually liked. Prime Wars Optimus, I actually kind of liked. This one was nothing good. This Optimus Prime was not handled well. He was made to be a loser. He really was. I mean, even not Alita telling him you gotta lose to win, basically said you gotta run this losing streak into the ground before you can win. And then we didn't really win in the end because it's still set up to a future war, and Unicron being pissed off that, well, these two didn't work out. I guess I'll have to start over again. So I don't know. What do y'all think about my interesting idea to change up the storytelling? Give it like different, go with the different eras of the G1 story, leaving out like season 3 and season 4 and Headmasters and all that crap. Yeah, Prime Wars Meg still, he was a badass. Megatron versus Overlord was great. Say what you will about a lot of it. Titan's Return should have been good. I don't think it really was. Combiner Wars was definitely garbage. But they did characterization really well. I think that's the one thing that Prime Wars had. They had character. I mean, they did almost basically an underbase powered Starscream, essentially. I mean, it was just the power of the Ultimate Dealey I know it was the Enigma, but still. I think those series made more sense as a trilogy than this. It's like they wanted to do something new with the old story. That one wanted to basically be post. Yeah, basically that was a post G1 war story. That too. This Megatron was good. Okay, let's talk about this too, because I know this annoyed a lot of people. Why did everybody, almost everybody, important, talk really slow? Optimus talked like this almost the entire series. Megatron wasn't that much better, but he could hold more long sentences. Optimus always seemed to be out of breath. I mean, if you wanted to use the excuse that his damage and low energon made him talk that way, it would make sense. But he spoke that way the entire series. The war was terrible. I will say this Optimus voice actor was fine, just wasn't written worth a damn. This cast was directed by William Shatner. That's funny. Um, yeah, but that's enjoyable. Yeah, I knew what you said, but it's true. It was just so bad. I mean, not the entire cast, because Bumblebee spoke fine. I think Hound, almost every character was fine. Also, I love how they just found more Autobots to throw into the battle that one time. He's like, get like 9 people together, and they're like, there's 9 of us left. Um, it's fine, but he sucks at yelling. Yes, yelling wasn't good. I have a sneeze coming. Give me a second. There it was. Yeah. Sorry. Hmm. I wonder if my camera would do 60 frames per second. I don't know if it will. Totally forgot about Mirage. Yeah, I love how they got Mirage snuck in there. He had an interesting uh plot or very small plot run. Also, where did he go? Did he died? He went invisible and then disappeared again? No pun intended. Yeah, Air Razor's escape was so stupid. Um, it just helped turn Dinobot. That's all it really served a purpose as. Rat Trap was funny. I'll give him that. Rat Trap was as close to Rat Trap as ever going to get. But can I just ask the obvious question? Was Scott McNeil busy? I mean, was he? Was any of the remaining voice cast of Beast Wars busy? I mean, I know at least one is unfortunately passed, but really? Nobody? Nobody had anything better to nobody had time to do less than 6 episodes worth of voice acting? Anybody? Nobody? I mean, Scott McNeil's just in Canada. Pretty sure this was probably made in Canada. Or at least recorded in Canada, I should say. Might have to do with union problem with Hasbro. Maybe. But I mean, voice acting talent is what it is. I mean, I don't know. Oh, there were no union actors at all. Now, I will say that Dinobot's actor sounded really familiar. And if I had to wager a guess, was an African American gentleman. I will say that perhaps they also gave Dinobot some African American features. Am I the only one who felt that? Let me look for this real quick. Transformers, War for Cybertron Trilogy. Uh, Cast is what I want. So wait, Optimus Prime was Peter Cullen. Just wasn't doing good. Chromia? What? Oh, Chromia was in Siege. That's right. So there's an English dub that's not. Jinx? What? I'm looking at the voice cast and seeing if I recognize any of these people other than Peter Cullen. Oh, just some person named Graham McTavish. Not listed who he was, just there. Troy Baker was in there. Wait, Steve Bloom? Nolan North? Johnny Young Bosch? But they're not listed into who they were. They just have all these names. Kriz Kaliko. I don't. I'm sure I'll get there eventually. Michael Dunn was Scorponok. What? Wheeljack did some stuff in this. I'll say that much. Yeah. See, this isn't the full cast. Not at all. Because it didn't even list half the character names. They just listed actors. Like they're in there, right? Can I get the top? I want the whole cast, please. Let me look at this. Okay, here we go. So Frank Tadaro with Starscream, Rat Trap, Ravage, Laserbeak, Ravage. Ravage didn't speak. Sparkle Spots, Shamble. That was a good one. Okay, so it says Jake Fushi. Yeah, so that other cast listing was wrong. It wasn't Peter Cullen. I don't think Steve Bloom was in this. They couldn't afford him. Okay, so Jake Fushi was Optimus and Nemesis. Bill Rogers was Wheeljack. Joe I can't pronounce his last name, was Bumblebee. Edward Bosco was Soundwave Ultra Magnus factory worker. Ultra Magnus. Again. Okay, so Kaiser. I forgot about Ironhide. Kaiser Johnson was Ironhide Seeker Guard Sparkless Bot. Mark Whitten was Sideswipe Skywarp. Other. Okay, Alita 1 was Lindsay Rousseau. Decius. Oh, wow. Oh, the doubt face of Decius. Also, yeah, wasn't he still alive? What happened to him? RC was Sophia Isabella, whoever that is. Raphael Goldstein was Ratchet, Sound Blaster. Okay. Sean Hawkins was Mirage. Once again, I still haven't seen anybody I recognize. Keith Silverstein, that name sounds super familiar. He was Jetfire Omega and DCS Deathface. That's interesting. Todd Habercorn was Red Alert. Shockwave. Prowl was Aaron Veach, whoever that is. Okay, so Georgia Reed. She looks really familiar, but she was Chromia, so she was only in 10 episodes. Hold on. Jimmy Stafford was Hound. Alexander Delalo. Yeah, Barricade. Miles Luna. Teletran 1, Arcbot, Cliffjumper. Also, the fact that the Arc toy comes with, what is it, mainframe? But mainframe wasn't featured, I think kind of sucks. I'll give you that. They really were. He does Char Aznavour with Dub and the gun. Oh, that's cool. Okay, so Justin Luther was Optimus Primal. So, okay. I could tell that Optimus Primal was also a black guy. I just didn't recognize the voice. Nothing wrong with that. It's just a change. Marcus Bobisic was Predacon Megatron. That dude. Hold on. I don't know if it's gonna focus, but wow. That is not the voice I would have expected out of that guy. Is that Genie Car? Was Black Arachnia? Spelled GN. Aaron Ebers was Air Razor. She did a good job. I'll say that. Air Razor was really decent. Cheetor was Joe Hernandez. Rhinox is Andy Barnett. No idea. Brooke Chalmers, Impactor, Thundercracker, Predacon Scorponok was Danny Hansen. Also, okay, so Chris Kaliko, whoever that is does not have a picture, unfortunately. I really don't recognize any of these names or faces. I don't know, Gray Haddock, maybe, but he was Spinister. Jolene Anderson was Decius Wrath. Michael Dunn was Scorponok. Oh, he might have been... Oh, he was Big Scorponok, not Beast Wars Scorponok. Alpha Trion was Ben Durand? Alex Tabor was Bugbite. I would have liked to have seen the Mercenaries come back. Astro Train. Oh yeah, Astro Train popped up again. I forgot about that. All the different DC's heads. Michael Jones, Ken Rogers. So I'm just like, I don't know who almost any of these cast members are. Nope, don't want to open that in the app. Just open the freaking link. Thank you. Has he done anything else? Big fan. I have no idea. Looks like it just says artist. Those look like music videos, not... Okay, yeah, so he's not really an actor so much. Weird. Okay. Well, it said he sounded familiar, but he clearly isn't, but it is what it is. Yeah. I thought it was interesting that Astro Train popped back up, which is fine. I just thought it was interesting. I was like, oh yeah, Astro Train's still alive. That's funny. Joe Hernandez. Yeah, I mean, kind of like Ron Perlman. Kind of like the Ron Perlman voice. Yeah. Oh, by the way, one thing I didn't look up, just since we're talking about it, and I talked about it last week. Let me look up Motu Revelations voice cast. Masters of the Universe Revelation cast. Mark Hamill, Chris Wood, Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn Smith was Lena. That would be Kevin Smith's daughter, by the way. Sarah Michelle Gellar was Tila. Andra was Tiffany Smith. Alan Oppenheimer was Mossman. By the way, Mossman was. I didn't talk about it, but Mossman was. He was barely in the series. Okay, so I had mistakenly said Liam Neeson was Man at Arms. It was actually Liam Cunningham. Not that I knew his name, but it's funny that it's Liam. It's the guy from Game of Thrones. Orko was Griffin Newman. Oh, Henry Rollins was Triclops. That explains a lot. Okay. Okay. Wait, Alicia Silverstone was Queen Marlena? Whoa. Okay, so I knew Justin Long was Roboto. Phil Lamar. Kevin Conroy. Did anybody know Kevin Conroy was in this? Talking about Masters of the Universe. Holy crap. Jason Mewes was Stinkor. That makes sense. Stephen Root was Cringer. I knew Tony Todd was Scareglow. Wait, that's still... Where's Beastman? Beastman was the only person that I was wondering who his voice was, and he's the one who's not listed. WD, what's up? Lena Headey. Yes, Lena Headey I mentioned, yes. I knew that was Lena Headey just by recognizing the voice. Give me a second. I want to see the full cast because I feel like someone wasn't credited anywhere for that character. Okay, Kevin Michael Richardson was Beastman, so I got that. It just wasn't listed in that. Maybe I was just thinking that Kevin Michael Richardson was someone else. Even though I talked about him specifically, I think I was thinking he was somebody else. Okay, so that's correct. Got it. Sure, it'll over soon. Watch from the start. Yeah, you might as well at this point because I'm gonna be going to bed sometime soon. But oh, okay, that's what it was. I thought that Kevin Michael Richardson was Clancy Brown, even though I eventually credited him properly for his name. So, um, but either way, I think that had they structured the story of the War for Cybertron series better, instead of it just being everybody's wandering to get to their point and Optimus is constantly tripping over himself and then just losing repeatedly. Um, I mean, the problem is that, and I mentioned this before, it's like, and I don't know if this is technically a woke thing, but they turned, God, I don't want to go political here if I can help it, but they keep making Megatron the good guy and Optimus into the bad guy, but in a subversive way. Optimus made a decision that actually dooms everyone, and Megatron is technically trying to do the decision that's better for everyone. So, I mean, it's inherently political, but I'm not trying to take a real stance on it, but it was bad writing and a lot of fan service. And even, in my opinion, as a fan, the fan service, at least in Kingdom, not done well. Prior fan service is what it is. It was just a way to get more characters in to sell more repaints. And by the way, they're still selling Siege repaints. And I don't mean anything, not Earthrise repaints, Siege repaints. We now have the premium finish Starscream to go and buy. Why? What was the point of the Earthrise figures at all? Why give them Earth modes at all? They didn't have them, which automatically tells you they changed the storyline. Why give us 86 movie characters when we didn't go there at all? Once again, showing they changed the storyline. Why give us a Waspinator who's not in the series at all? Once again, leading to the idea that they probably changed it. War for Cybertron Trilogy characters you forgot were alive. Well, I think there was the one really emotional moment was when they went back to Cybertron and it was dead. And everyone was dead. I think that was the emotional moment because their only hope was they got back to save their friends. All of their friends were dead. All of their enemies were dead. The planet was dead. Like, in a lot of aspects, they could have been in their right to just say, well, Cybertron's a bust. Let's go back to Earth. They at least have Energon. Um, but eventually Unicron would have come about, and then they would have been completely dead to the idea. But the fact that they introduced the idea that the Allspark needed to be on Cybertron and Cybertron needed the Allspark. Okay. There you go. No. Get J.J. Abrams. Bring in J.J. Abrams to make it just like Siege. Go back to the storyline they were intending, right? Do exactly as the fans demand. Got to bring in J.J. Abrams. No, not just J.J. We got to bring in. Actually, you know what? More series that are supposed to be trilogies need to have a Kevin Feige, not in the literal sense, but somebody who is in control, has the storylines laid out almost a decade in advance, and they just have to figure out how to get there versus, okay, we have this goal for this series, and the next series that is a direct sequel, we're going to change that goal and really screw up how we get there, and then the next one, oh, we had a setback. Crap the bed and forget to change the sheets. Okay. I think the problem was is that if the Allspark died, there was zero hope at all for any future Transformers. Nope, wait, nope, that's not a problem because we already have Transformers in the future. There's no point. There was no point in taking the Allspark back except for quote-unquote redemption for Prime. The entire story, as I mentioned before, was how bad did Prime screw up and how is he going to fix it? Well, he screwed up really, really bad to the point that he created an alternate timeline of everyone who hates him instead of worshiping him as the hero he was. And then they do a thing after everyone's dead that benefits only them. Dave Filoni would do, as long as there isn't a Lucasfilm, which we are very well aware that Hasbro gets involved in their series. I don't know, it's just a thing. I hope I didn't offend you, JJ Prime. I know you're a real big fan of this, and I'm just shitting all over it. I will say, the series did allow them to make better figures. Occasional QC issues, but better figures. The Beast Wars figures are actually pretty good. I need to get Scorponok to fill out the ranks of the Predacons, and I guess I'll get Waspinator for that same reason. But I mean, like, the fact that we're still lacking, like, we don't have a Tarantulas, technically speaking, but I'm sure they'll give us one. I need Tigatron, I guess. I guess I have to put Dinobot over there if we're going with the Kingdom line. But see, here's the thing about it. They didn't talk about Primus at all. Most continuities, Primus isn't a thing. We only get Unicron. We get the Devil, but we kind of all forget about God. I think in Prime, they sort of alluded to the fact that the Allspark was basically the spark of Primus, that Cybertron was Primus internally, but he would never recover, so to speak. The way Prime ended and their use of the Allspark made more sense than this one. Even though it was rushed, it made more sense. Apparently, you need lots of Scorponok's. Bullshit. That's a crappy looking figure. Haven't seen him in hand yet. I'll have to really look at it. If you guys didn't see the third-party version that I have, it's actually really good. So I'm sort of building out a Beast Wars cast in Legends scale that is actually pretty decent. I just gotta hope they continue that line and continue to make it good. I think. Okay, so for you guys, what was the best thing about the series? We'll go positive route. We've been shitting on it for a while. For you guys, what was your favorite thing, even if it was only one single thing? Yeah, who knows? The G1 Bumblebee needs an update? What do you mean? I mean, in this continuity. Also, what was Bumblebee's alt mode? Because the toy is only Volkswagen. What was his original alt mode? I don't recall. Did it show it? Siege would have been the only time he transformed. Did he have an alt mode? Yes, I know we now have the new marvelous Bumblebee line or whatever the fuck it's called. I do like that they have the episode 1 version of Bumblebee, which is pretty neat. Kind of want it, but I don't really need it in my life. Haven't gotten to the second episode yet. Don't remember. Okay. I mean, does he need an update? I mean, to what? To what exactly do you mean? Like his design? Because, I mean, G1 Bumblebee is G1 Bumblebee. He's going to be a Volkswagen-ish bug. Whether that's an actual looking like a car or a penny racer. Either way, but... I mean, if there was anything good about the first couple series, it was that they sort of got to play with adding in characters. I wish that... oh, I thought that wasn't plugged in all the way. What's his face? Skylinks. I wish Skylinks played a better role. I mean, other than just being an asshole who got chucked into the dead universe for being an asshole. I wish he could have been more of a part of things. I knew the risk in participating in a review. No, it's fine. I don't care if you get spoiled. As long as your daughter didn't get spoiled, that's all that matters. Now she's watching too, right? Animation wise, I mean, he looks a bit squat and stumpy in some scenes. Yeah, but that's Bumblebee. He's a small bot. Yeah, I guess there were some cool fights. Oh, once again, I was bringing up the idea that we killed off certain characters, but they didn't have the balls to kill Soundwave. Like, come on. Like, Dinobot chucked his sword straight through his chest, and he didn't die. I mean, I guess you gotta wonder where Soundwave Spark technically is. Also, what happened? Did we ever get a Shockwave in the series? I know we got the figure, but was Shockwave ever part of the series? I don't recall. Wait, Shockwave invented the spark extracting thing to power up the Nemesis, didn't he? And then just like everyone else died unceremoniously off screen. That's the thing. Okay. My biggest letdown of this series was that they kept giving us updates to what was happening on Cybertron, and then Kingdom didn't until the end, and then everybody's just dead. We didn't get to see them struggle. We just got to know that it was too late to do anything. Had they built it up, like, okay, we've only got so much time, where are they? And then you find out that they come back and it's been another 100 years and everybody's dead. That's one thing. But you give us a lot of hope that they're going to get back in time to help people, kind of. And then just to be completely smacked in the face with no update on those characters at all, everybody's just gone. And they don't technically get revived, which is the other problem. Jetfire, my favorite too, just unceremoniously dead. Even though he could fly in space, maybe they should have gone for that. I mean, if Bumblebee's your favorite and you think it wasn't a good model for him, fine. I'm just glad they didn't go Bayverse. They've gone very G1, which is fine for me. That's funny. Shockwave was the biggest voice letdown? Okay. I didn't actually pay attention to who played Shockwave. But see, this is the thing, is like it's been so long since Siege, I had forgotten what technically happened in it, and it was only 6 episodes. I think that this whole story was let down in the same way that Revelations was let down by not giving enough shit for them to do. Earthrise had the biggest changes in what was happening because they went from space to dealing with the mercenaries, to ending up in the dead universe, to basically falling out at Earth with no power. Kingdom didn't do much to move the story along, in my opinion. Just a bunch of shit happened that could have been wrapped up in one episode and then given us more time to do other things. No characters were really left to evolve. You thought Bumblebee was going to become super important, and then really he was kind of a MacGuffin in Siege, and then they brought back the memory of that in whatever. And I think the idea that at some point Bumblebee was meant to be a new leader when Optimus was failing should have been a thing, or that Alita 1 was sort of taking that role on Cybertron because now she had to step up to the plate because Optimus was a fucking loser. It's like, if Optimus was going to be this big of a loser, let him die a hero, and then other people who thought he was a loser find out what he did. Optimus didn't really get redemption because there was almost no one left to reap the benefits of his trial by fire. In this case, yeah, you're right. I don't think he was ever meant to transform. Talking about Blade Runner 2049. See, a lot of people say that 2049 could stand on its own without knowledge because they cover enough of the original in there. But I guess, yeah. I think the problem here is that trying to retell a story that's been told in a new way with the same characters, while you can do it, they failed at doing it in a meaningful manner. They just made a show to sell toys. G1 didn't always have the best continuity, but it was a big storyline that started here and then a few years later ended over here. And a whole lot of shit happened, and a whole lot of character development happened, and a whole lot of meaningful things happened. A whole lot of nothing happened, but a whole lot of meaningful happened. There was growth. However many episodes it was, 70, 80, 90, I don't know, episodes across 3 seasons. And then Beast Wars being 3 series, Beast Machines being 2 series? Question mark? 2 or 3? I don't remember. So you had character development. This, as you said, this relied on you knowing the characters and what they went through to care about them, because we don't see them go through anything to care about why they're having issues. Yeah, it's true. G1 reinvented certain things here and there. They played with their own continuity because they forgot what they did. It was the 80s. There was a lot of drugs involved. Yeah, not a commercial success, but then again, original Blade Runner was not a commercial success. It's a cult classic in the sci-fi world. It's just, I hated to see. I'll put it to you this way: War for Cybertron Trilogy wanted to be Gundam: The Origins, and it definitely wasn't. I mean, like a slight retelling of previous story that we didn't get to see, that may lead to a slightly alternate outcome. Star Trek, no, Star Trek was pitiful. Yes, but then it got better, and then it got worse, and then it got really worse, and then it got better for about 5 seconds. Then it got really worse. One of these days, I want to do a discussion about Star Trek Discovery, as it was, because now looking back on the third season, ooh boy, ooh boy. I will say the animation was good, though I think that some of the characters in the Beast Wars section were not following the toy models. It seems like that was the only ones they did that were not. Um, and I think that was pretty obvious because Rat Trap looked a lot better. For sure, Rat Trap looked a lot better than he was. Discovery is apparently gearing up for season 4. Apparently, I saw a thing and they're talking about bringing back a specific character in season 4, and then when somebody told me who the character was, I'm like, why? It makes no sense to bring back that character in story. So for me, I think Star Trek Discovery ended at season 2. I think it did, unfortunately. I think that was because they kind of meant it to end at the end of season 2. I think it's okay to feel that way. It's almost like the last season, or last 2 seasons of Dexter, but definitely the last season of Dexter. Dexter is getting a continuation, and I hope they ignore that final season to some degree because we don't need to acknowledge how Dexter ended. Sometimes a good series needs to end at a good point, and bad series definitely need to end at a point. I, you know what? I'm gonna say something crazy. I think sometimes you don't need a full-on cartoon line to have figures. G.I. Joe doesn't have one, as far as I know. I mean, there's a game, but they don't have a new cartoon series to go with the new toys. Not that you can buy the toys anyways; they're not available anywhere. Um, Not that that's a problem for me. I don't collect that line. But I mean, Star Wars puts out figures not necessarily directly tied to a series or a movie, but tied into the universe in general or comic books or whatever else like that. Also, anybody gonna back the Rancor uh, on HasLab? I mean, I'm not, but still. Star Trek left without me in Enterprise. Advance of Zeta just has manga. Yeah. I mean, selling model kits for Gunpla is a very different story. At least there's manga, but I'm talking about like when you release something that basically has no media tie-in. It takes a lot of balls in general, but like look at it this way. Okay, let's talk about this. So, War for Cybertron is a retelling slash reboot of G1. Things change. Now we're on a different timeline, and we're going in a very different direction. The Power Rangers comics, if you're following them at all, did the same thing. So it started out in the basis of the original MMPR, and within everything that ever existed in Power Rangers on TV, period. And then once they got to Shattered Grid and Lord Draken and all that stuff, now we're on an entirely branched timeline. We're going completely different things. Even to the point that we shattered the timeline into different universes. And then all of those universes were either being ended or eventually all had to be collapsed back to a central timeline, with the exception of one. Um, and then now we're getting both prequel and future continuity, along with some filler. And I don't mean that as a bad way, but like stuff that makes sense even within the original timeline to have happened, but it's being done in the comic books and it's being done well. The War for Cybertron series would have benefited from a comic book writer to make a continuous story that is a spin-off slash retelling slash reboot of a pre-existing property that is well known and well loved. Should have ended before they fought the Night King. Um, Game of Thrones. I'm one of the people who saw the issues with the last 2 seasons of Game of Thrones, but also wasn't heavily relied on the books for anything to care about. I cared that they ended it in such a way because yeah, they could have done better. But I also wasn't pissed at the outcome because they could have gone a different way entirely, and people still would have been pissed. Whether it was with the Night King or whether it was with Daenerys and Jon. Frankly, Game of Thrones ended when Ned Stark died. I'm just kidding. Um, though I would love to see a story, an alternate story timeline where Ned never went back or went to Winterfell or left Winterfell to go to King's Landing. Imagine the way the world would have gone. I kind of want to see that as a retelling. I think that'd be interesting. Sure. I just think if you're gonna do a series to sell a toy line, at least make a decent series. Like it's one thing when they're doing Cyberverse or things like that where they're all kind of spin-offs on and modern takes, but this was G1 but different. Like we're hitting a lot of the same stuff that G1 did. We're seeing the backstory of stuff that G1 did, but we didn't get to see before. And then it takes a turn and then goes down its own path, which is fine. It's almost like Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Here's the original timeline, here's the Brotherhood timeline. At this point, they were exactly the same, and then we go this way, and now it's totally different. Like incredibly different, but still well done. I think time was their biggest limiting factor. Could have given the characters more room to breathe. Could have given them, hell, give them 10 episodes. Let it spread out. Also, if you intended on bringing the 86 cast in, do it that way. You know, I think had they done something like I talked about, do proper regular G1 in Siege, even so much as like getting to Earth or leaving for Earth at the end of it, do the 86 movie as Earthrise, but then retell it in the basis of the story that they left off with Siege, have a tie-in to Siege somehow, then Kingdom be Beast Wars, but altered because of the timeline being altered, and then now you start to see the culmination of the previous two storylines now coming into this storyline, because time travel is also the problem here. And then in the final series, you have them all clashing to figure out how to fix this, and then fixing Cybertron and fixing the timeline is the goal. And then you could have easily handed it from. You could have actually done the handoff properly in this. Optimus has to die. Hot Rod gets the Matrix. He couldn't have gotten the Matrix before, so now he gets the Matrix from Optimus. This Rodimus then beats the Unicron that's coming after them and the Beast Wars people, thanks to time traveling Galvatron. And then that Rodimus also dies post beating that. And now the Matrix gets passed on to Optimus Primal, who now upgrades and then has to go back with the stuff to go save Cybertron in the past. And then he basically rewrites history to the point that now he's saved. But he's now got his new Autobot body, more or less, and now he becomes the new Prime to lead what's left of Cybertron into the future for a whole new timeline. Much better story. I should write that. Dig up Trans Tech, pick up after Beast Machines, start us off in the slums of Axiom Nexus. Wow. Entire franchise TF would have benefited if IDW had been given a chance of yes, or in charge of it. Maybe not as current incarnation. No, if we had animated IDW, nobody would know what to do with themselves because characterization, massive long storylines, you know, and you could do it, and then all other kiddie versions of Transformers could still exist on the side. Brass storyboard. Hey, I can only come up with that storyline given the shit we were given. I mean, we'll just rewrite the whole storyline. Should I just do a what if? Like just write the whole thing out. Like, what if we did this? And then post it and then, release the Shoky cut. That would be great. That'd be hilarious. And then be like, who? This small time YouTuber. This beer is good. But I think that would have made the most sense. So the whole idea is they need to get the Allspark back to Earth or back to Cybertron. If it makes it all the way to Earth as they're chasing it, that's one thing. I mean, you could even leave it to where it's still on the arc. Like it didn't go ahead of the arc, it stayed on the arc. And then when they crash, that's how that gets involved. I don't know. I think it just would have made more sense. And given what they did with the characters and given what they did with the toy line, you could have made all of that work. Unicron was pointless. It really was. I mean, if they're going to do another... Sorry. If they're going to do another trilogy, so to speak, based off what happened at the end of this, I don't know, make that up too. Just, it's a new timeline. We start off with the same story, but then make it go in a direction that makes more sense. One of the funniest trans tech plots is swindle the pawn shop. That's good. I like that. Swindle. Sounds like a law firm. Still works. Also, this is going to look badass once I have all the details lit behind me, like the good old days. But then you also, like, I can reposition the camera so we can see the statues on both sides and the details lit. But yeah. Three different swindles in a universe. I would definitely pay for that to be like a two-part or a three-part miniseries real quick. Like that would be funny. Like they get a you said it's a pawn shop, right? So you could easily have a story. I don't know what happened in Transtech, but like that would easily be like they get given or purchase a relic that they don't know what it is, and then it causes all kinds of trouble for them, and then the different swindles all have to try to deal with all these people trying to come get the stupid thing, almost like the shop owner in Guardians when he hired Peter Quill to get the Power Stone. That's just funny, and then just the trouble that came across that poor guy. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say like the Allspark is like right there, and I wouldn't have the Allspark be a tool like it is in animated, or the shards of the Allspark, or her having the key that's the Allspark. But if the Allspark is the thing, like give them a reason to have left with it, and then say they lose it in a battle and it ends up on Earth. You know, it is what it is. You could have some storytelling happen off screen and then have a flashback episode. Like, so they end Siege with leaving, just like they did. Trying to get the Allspark off of Earth, or off of Cybertron, so Megatron can't use it. And then, like I said, the 86 movie, they end up in the dead universe. Somehow. Sure, I could figure that one out. Couldn't be that hard. Figure that one out. They end up in the dead universe and they find the Ark. And then they find the older Autobots, Prime and whatnot, passed out. And then they manage to get the Ark up and running, and then they leave the dead universe. And the last thing you see is them over a prehistoric Earth, maybe. And then you pick up, like I said, with Beast Wars, they go through a Beast War of sorts, and then you find out that who they're fighting or running from is Galvatron and Nemesis, who were brought up in the previous series. Wait, how did they get here? And then Ark crashing. And then goes from there into the next series. The backdrop behind Transformer timelines. Be like Ed, and Eddie pulling off scams. Pretty much. Frickin' swindles. I mean, I like the idea where multiple universes can exist, and I guess technically they're alternate timelines if you want to go there. Just like Marvel now. Marvel has lots of timelines to play with. Um, but if that's the case, you have to make it make sense how multiple timelines can cross instead of, we just found a way to do it. But I think the one thing that was slightly communicated through Kingdom is that Galvatron knew he could do it because he did it before. It's the Harry Potter and the Patronus problem, um, which is one of the smaller books in the series. If you guys didn't see it, problems with Patronuses. Um, you need to take a little blue pill to get it to. Anyways, um, the idea that the only reason he knew that he could actually conjure a full Patronus was because he had seen himself do it. So the idea that future Megatron did the golden disc, then becomes Galvatron, but now has the memories of Megatron who had gone through this in the first place to get the golden disc to go to all. Yeah, there's some really bad loops that are happening there. There's definitely a grandfather paradox happening with Galvatron slash Megatron in and of himself. Into the Road series. I have no idea. I don't know what that is. I like it when you do time travel straightforward. Um, instead of getting instead of getting too complicated with it. If you do the Back to the Future rules, it makes more sense within a narrative like this. If you change the past, you alter the future. If you are from that future, some amount of time will eventually catch up to you in your changes. Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, hold on. I want to bring something up. Okay, so if you guys ever watch the movies that made us, it's from the same guys who do the toys that made us on Netflix. They did Back to the Future. If you guys know, Michael J. Fox, while the first choice to play Marty, wasn't the first actor to play Marty. Obviously, it was the other guy whose name is completely escaping me right now. But here's the funny part, and they said something going over the history of it, and one of the main reasons it was Eric something. Anyways, uh, one of the reasons ultimately ended up leaving, it said that he said that once he read the script, that Back to the Future was one of the saddest, most depressing stories that he had ever come across, even at the end of the first movie, because Marty, now having gone through this whole adventure with Doc and altering the past, now comes to a future that he knows nothing about and has to live with these strangers that he has no memory of what they've been through together, like his new family that has everything going well for them. He now comes back to a future that he didn't live, that he doesn't gain the memories of, that he doesn't, well, in the future, he technically benefits from, but he didn't benefit from the past that other Marty did. He now just replaces original Marty in this timeline, but actually has no connection to his parents, his brother, his sister, Biff, technically speaking. And I guess technically Doc has the same problem, even though he's vaguely similar to the point that he created a time machine. But it's funny that that original actor had that thought that Back to the Future is technically a really, really sad story because Marty coming back to a future he didn't get to live the progress of this new life. He have to live with the memories of his depressing ass life. and know that he'll never really fit in or connect to these characters as they were. Because once you left that timeline, it's kind of screwed. Kind of sad. So is that what Megatron's living with? Megatron alters, or Galvatron alters the past, comes back here. Now he gets to live with his shitty past that he went through, while trying to alter the future so that he can try to benefit from that. I think this is the one problem I have with this time travel notion is that he was trying to make it so that this Megatron never became Galvatron by getting enslaved by Unicron. That's a whole lot of things to say all at once. But it wouldn't benefit that Galvatron at all because these timelines are not overlapping or intersecting. They can just crisscross. It's like their normal multiverse timeline rule where they just pop over into another timeline via whatever reason and interact, but it's not affecting their own timeline in any way. They're not changing what's happening in their timeline. They're just changing what happens in this one. Which I guess if Galvatron wanted to have that, that's fine. But he would either cease to exist or his memories change. It's one of those things. It's like we never got to see what would have happened if Megatron's plan to destroy Optimus Prime and make sure the Great War never happened, or had they eliminated humankind from helping in the Great War. We never got to see what would have happened to the entire universe. But we know that it was erasing everybody in the Beast Wars timeline who didn't benefit from that existence. So it's weird. He can rewrite any timeline he wants. Not his own, because he was trying to save himself, but he wasn't. Because as soon as he talked to Megatron, he should have been over. So that would imply that within Galvatron's timeline, nothing would change. And it's clearly a different timeline because Nemesis existed as his partner, which I thought was interesting. I don't know. It's a problem. It's a problematic timeline. The problem with Transformer timeline manipulation is that it never seems to last, which is also very true. Is it supposed to rain tomorrow? 11 degrees cooler tomorrow? Holy crap. Ooh, that's not good. Sorry, I just saw the forecast for tomorrow, and like I was supposed to go to my mom's to work on a thing for her, and it looks like it's going to be a really rainy day tomorrow. It's been threatening rain like every day for 3 weeks, but we almost never get any here. This grip on reality has never been firm. That's true, especially actual G1 Galvatron. But like, if he lived, yeah. So that Galvatron somehow came into existence regardless of the altering the timeline. So that's not original Galvatron. That's War for Cybertron Galvatron, who lived through being that Megatron, still somehow becoming Galvatron. We don't get that. That's the problem with skipping the 86 movie stuff. Give us back the 86 movie stuff, Hasbro. Either way, just make the SHOKY cut. That's what we should do. Anyways, I'm going to go to bed, guys. Tomorrow's going to be seemingly a crappy day. We'll see what happens. We did not do all the running around we needed to do today. I'm glad you guys stuck around for the chat. And I hate the fact that we basically ended up shitting on this more than talking about the positives. I think other than animation and giving us one or two really cool scenes, Kingdom was a letdown as a story, especially as the quote-unquote end to a story. It was less impressive than the beginning of the story. There wasn't a redemption for anybody that I could see outside of Dinobot. Starscream ended up actually being pretty cool. I guess that was a good thing. Still very depressing ending as they all came back to everyone being dead. So yay. Actually, it's very similar to Beast Wars in that manner. Beast Machines. They come back to a Cybertron that's empty. And oh, I see what they did there. I don't know where to go from here. It's either half-assed or an original. That's true. Actually, I would say it's quarter-assed. I think they didn't quite hit half-assed for some of it. I would say that Siege was full-assed, Earthrise was definitely half-assed, and then Kingdom was quarter-assed. And then there's not like another series to make up for the quarter-assing. I'm gonna get my own shadow of my microphone here, but I'll catch you guys later. I think I'm basically gonna either have to do more live streams right now or just release more out the box videos. I will have some quickies coming up on the secondary channel. I'm trying to do more stuff on the third channel, live stream reactions and stuff like that. But for right now, I don't have a review desk. I've got stuff to review. I will possibly have an in the kitchen video coming up shortly. Um, our current new kitchen is still a horrible mess, but I can make it work. Still not sure how I'm going to film in there just yet. But then again, I don't know how I'm going to film in here yet. So we'll do that. Make sure you're following the vlogs to see the progress on the room and how we even got to this point in the first place. And I hope you guys have a good week and a good rest of everything else. Left cheek, left cheek, left cheek. Thank you. The Unicron did nothing wrong. In this, yeah, actually, Unicron didn't do anything wrong that we could say. I'll see you guys later, and eventually we'll get to that Hathaway's Flash review live stream. So, but remember, as always, to keep on nerding, to keep on building, and let's keep building this community together. I guess we have to rebuild this community because COVID kind of just wrecked everything. So we need to do that. Also, stay safe out there. The world is still kind of on fire again. So just be careful out there. And if you're over in France, prayers be with you. Oh, and Australia too. Australia's a big mess right now. So